County Board proceedings will now come to order. Is everybody, Supervisor Warnke, Supervisor Brennan, Melissa Reynolds is, you can check out, right?
Right, we'll have to, yeah.
Okay. Can you close her out now, or does it?
I don't want to mess with it.
Okay.
So we'll wait.
Okay. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Supervisor Locke with the invocation.
We remember to thank our Creator for all that we are and all that we have. Please help to guide us through the tough decisions we have to make this evening, and also to remember the victims in Washington, D.C. Amen.
Amen. Supervisor Robel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move for the adoption of this evening's agenda.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, we'd like to pull the last resolution on the agenda. That would be 269-92013.
Okay. That is removed. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on anything on the agenda this evening? Now is your chance to say something. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on anything on the agenda this evening? Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on anything on the agenda this evening? Yes. State your name and address.
Craig Engel, W8995 Madeline Lane, Hortonville. Tonight I wanted to address the County Board about Resolution 193-42013, authorize execution of 5-year rental agreement between Winnebago County and Tri-County Recreation Association. I don't feel that this resolution puts the best interest of the taxpayers first, does not put the best interest of all of the user groups first, and it does not show trust in the citizens of the county to ensure the best possible outcome for the arena. I'd like to bring up 3 points that help support and illustrate the 3 things I had said previously. First, back in March, there was a proposal submitted by Tri-County Recreation Association at one of the Parks Committee meetings. This proposal showed their management future. It has no material difference from their past going forward. This is their plan as they go forward. This is the plan that they have submitted and the proposal that they have submitted to Winnebago County. It consists of 4 parts: to extend the skating season, to increase revenues, to decrease cost, and to increase volunteerism. The next statement is, if all of the above can be achieved, then TCRA, Tri-County Rec Association, may be able to keep ice rates relatively constant. This means they don't have to increase revenues, they don't have to decrease cost, they don't have to do anything except maintain what they have been doing. They'll just continue to increase rates. The multiple inquiries we've asked many times about volunteering with the facility, and we've been told multiple things. The most recently is workers' comp and liability issues. Ironically, in their proposal, I quote, "The TCRA would rely on volunteers from ICE user groups to provide the manpower to do renovations. This model would be used to do locker rooms, the concession area, and the business office, etc." End quote. Based on the removal of walls, sinks, urinals, I think it's probably safe to assume that power tools would be allowed or chemicals be used to do renovations. The interesting thing is, right now, user groups aren't allowed to serve coffee, pretzels, work with standard cleaning supplies to clean the bathrooms, but we're going to be expected or we're going to be wanted to help with renovations using power tools. I think that there's some inconsistencies here and cause for question. This is just one of the illustrations that we have of the frustrations. And it isn't just our organization. Please don't think because people are silent doesn't mean that they're satisfied. Silence does not equal satisfaction. Their proposal doesn't make any mention of bringing user groups together to run more efficiently and effectively. No mention of customer service. No mention of increased marketing efforts to increase revenue of dry land events. No mention of methods to increase awareness of ICE availables for purchase. No mention of putting user fees towards capital repairs or projects. The amazing thing is those are all the most important parts of any business plan and any business proposal. Revenue from dry land events have been declining from 2002 to 2011. There's been an approximately 8% decrease in revenue, 30% increase in ICE rates, which goes exactly to what I had mentioned before. They don't have to do anything except for continue to raise ICE rates. And an alarming 27% decrease in ICE hours sold. My second point surrounds the county property and the contract itself. In here on May 7th and throughout this entire process, there have been multiple people who have said, we're in the racetrack business, we should be in the ICE business. If that is the case, and Winnebago County is now the owner of Tri-County Ice Arena, I would think that there should be a contract with similar structure written by the county. Granted, there's differences between the two pieces of property, but the fundamental purpose is recreation. I would imagine common elements such as the image of the county, opportunity for the county to generate revenue, and the county to maintain proper oversight and accountability of any selected management company. The two current contracts are vastly different. I have a copy here of the racetrack agreement, 44 pages. Not only, while I'm not an attorney, common sense indicates the board should review a number of things in the contract, specifically revenue. When you read the contract of the racetrack, it explicitly states the amount of revenue that will be given to the county and generated from the racetrack. It's approximately $10,000 per race season, or 6 months. Look at the flip side. What's the contract between Winnebago County and Tri-County Tri-County Recreation Association have to say? The ice arena, $1 per year. The county loses money on the arena. It has to pay the $4,000 for liability insurance. And it's going to be more soon, I believe, with the requirement that the county pay the parking lot. The financial aspect of things. For the racetrack, I quote, the appropriate department head, quote, has the right to inspect racetrack management's financial records and statements, including year-end balance sheets, income statements, and cash flow statements, annual general ledger detail reports with full year of information listed, all receipts with supporting invoices. That's specific. Tri-County Recreation Association, the ice arena indicates only general terms. Financial statements and bookkeeping available to county executive. What does that mean? You can decide, I don't know. The third point, and perhaps this is the most clear-cut, straightforward point. Throughout last year, I did a lot of research. Over the last 3 years, I've done a lot of research. I went back and I watched some of the county board meetings, and there were two things that came out pretty clear to me. Of all of everybody in here, the two themes that emerged were money and competition. Comments made regarding money. Selling for $1 is a crime. It's a disservice to taxpayers to undercharge. It's worth more than $1. One supervisor had an excellent point that should be remembered anytime a resolution comes before the board. Quote, responsibility to our constituents to exercise due diligence in dealing with financial transactions. Current management has had a sweet deal in that they pay $1 a year if the county asks for it. This $1 gives them the opportunity to earn sizable gross profits. 2010, 2011, Tri-County Recreation Association had gross profits of $115,000. In 2012, 2013, gross profits, $93,000. Gross profits. Why do they have such a sweet deal? No doubt that it's because there isn't any competition for management. Lack of competition didn't put their facility on the radar. It became completely on the back burner, out of sight, out of mind. I guarantee that there's regional and national entities that if there were a competitive bid process, there would be regional and national entities that would be interested in running that facility. PMC is a big one. Another one is up out of Green Bay. The competitive proposal process has been mentioned more than the county's financial duty that I had mentioned previously. In here again, in this room, put the management out for bid. Quote, another quote, there should be a request for proposal of management. Another quote, explore other proposals to keep it going. Another quote, ask administration to go out and find who wants to bid on it. And I think one of the most relevant comments made was in the form of a question. Are we grabbing the first available or the best available? The only way to find it the best available is a competitive bid process. And I think one of the things that Executive Harris had used in his veto message back in May 7th was that the process by which the transaction was to go through was inconsistent with County Code 3.13. And I think it's important for everyone in here to realize County Code 3.13 and what it says. The purpose of the ordinance is to establish a procedure for the sale or lease of county property for its contracting with outside persons or entities for revenue-generating purposes. Part 2, competitive means for sale or property or contracting for revenue-generating activities. When practical, county department heads shall use competitive means to obtain the best prices for the sale or lease of property or with regard to entering into any contract for service that would generate revenue for the county. This section shall not apply to the sale or lease of goods or services to other governmental agencies. Tri-County Recreation Association, I do not believe, is a governmental agency. Procedure is the Finance Department shall establish written procedures in relation to the ordinance, and all departments of Winnebago County, both elected and appointed, shall comply with such procedures. To me, it seems this resolution is inconsistent with County Code 3.13. I don't know if any of the lease agreements have been subjected to this, and it's not my position to say. That's for the county board to figure out. Let me be clear. I'm not saying Fox Valley Youth Hockey Association should be the managers. What I'm saying is that there should be a legitimate competitive bid process for the opportunity. Let the best management team win. As was mentioned by one of the supervisors in a county board meeting, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is broke at so many different levels. Now is your chance to fix it. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on anything on the agenda this evening?
Again, 137 Poplar Court, Town of Neenah. I'd like to speak briefly in favor of the resolution to grant a 5-year lease to the Rec Association. Back in March, both the Rec Association and the Hockey Club had an opportunity to present to the Parks Committee a proposal on what they would like to see done over the next 5 years. In our proposal, we indicated that our hope was that over the course of time, what we would be able to do is hold ice rates either constant or with slight increases so that after a 5-year period, the ice rates at our facility would be at or less than the ice rates in the area. So the objective was that we would be one of the cheapest possibilities out there. Now, in our proposal, we address a number of the concerns that have been raised by the Hockey Club. Increasing revenue, decreasing cost, looking at the possibility of volunteerism, finding new ways or creative ways to raise money in order to get capital improvements done. In our proposal, we detailed how we would do all of those things over the course of the next 5 years. It's my understanding that after the presentation was made by each of the groups, the Park Committee adopted or decided to propose the 5-year lease to the Rec Association. So it seems to me we demonstrated in our proposal, number one, a primary objective going forward of trying to make the rates at that facility at or less than the rates in the area. And they must have agreed with the approach that we had proposed for increasing revenues, decreasing costs, and addressing the other issues or concerns. I think it's unfair to say that we were ignoring or not paying attention to the questions or the concerns that the Hockey Club has raised. I think, as a matter of fact, in that proposal, we tried to specifically address those as best we could. So for those reasons, we believe we have come up with a good proposal. We do believe that we can provide appropriate management, and therefore we would ask the county to approve a 5-year lease with the Rec Association. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on anything on the agenda this evening? Is there anybody else that would like to speak on anything on the agenda this evening? Once more, is there anybody else that would like to speak on anything on the agenda this evening? That portion of the meeting will be closed. Communications from petitions from the clerk.
We have a notice of claim from Creel Camp Trucking for damage to one of their trailers out at the landfill, referred to the Personnel and Finance Committee, and a petition for a zoning amendment from Paul Kinnear in the town of Nakaimai requesting a zoning change from R1 to A2 for a single-family residence, referred to planning and zoning. That's all. That's all.
Okay. Reports from committees, commissions, and boards. Any commissions, committees, or boards have anything to report? Approval of proceedings from August 20th, 2013.
Also move back item.
Been moved and seconded. Are there any additions or corrections? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Carried. County Executives Report.
You have a number of significant resolutions on tonight's agenda, so I'll be very brief on each. With regard to the lease with the ice arena, I'm just going to point out that at some point in time, there needs to be longer than a temporary one-year lease, that the last 5-year lease, after many years of 5-year renewals, has expired, and there's already been 2 one-year leases put in place so that you had someone in charge of managing the ice arena. At some point, the board is going to have to decide who is going to manage the ice arena. And I will point out that when the county came into the ice arena, it was because the original philanthropist who built it at his own expense was going to close it when user groups were unwilling to either rent enough hours or pay enough for them to continue operation and cover the cost of the ice arena. So that this type of dispute has led to the closure of the ice arena or near closure of it once before. You also have Resolution 258-92013. It's a significant capital project for the Parks Department. I'll just remind you that a significant portion of that project is an American Disabilities Act mandate to provide full access to all the area of the park. Even if you chose not to do this resolution, we'd be bound by law to do something with regard to providing wheelchair and handicap access to all the areas of the park. So a significant portion of this project is mandated. We have no choice. Also that this project would be done by the Highway Department so that at least a portion of the cost of this project would come back to the county as revenue in the Highway Department. You have a resolution here with regard to an EDA grant. We had approved a resolution supporting the city's grant application back in February. Right before Labor Day, the EDA came back and asked us for revised language in the resolution, and that's the resolution you see before you tonight is the one approved by the EDA. I'm very optimistic on this grant, but we won't know if the city is going to receive it or not until it becomes official. The proceeds of the grant are being used to put infrastructure into the aviation business park, streets, water, and sewer. And the match portion of that grant largely comes from TIF borrowing from a TIF district that the city is approved for that area. We're not being asked to put any additional funds in as part of the match at all. So there's no additional cost on the county. And you'll see that in the financial impact statement that Chuck prepares for our agenda. You also have Human Resource Policy Manual. This has been a long time coming, a very difficult process. I would encourage you to approve that. It moves us a long ways towards uniformity, but it doesn't get us all the way there. But it's something that we can do without a major labor disruption or trouble with the unions. I will also point out that the rules have changed for next year and that the unions have to get a recertification approval by the end of January next year or they're automatically decertified. It's unclear how many, if any, of the unions outside of public safety will be recertified next year. We'll just have to wait and see. But I don't believe any of the unions have a sufficient number of people paying dues that even if every dues-paying member of the union voted affirmative, that there'd be enough votes for recertification under the Act 10 rules. So it is likely that we will have at least less unions, not certain, but likely that we'll have less unions after January of next year. You also have the labor contracts with the unions. Now, the labor contracts only identify the union group and provide the base amount of increase for their contracts. Those base amounts were determined looking at the total increases that the union employees would receive. Some union employees still receive step increases, and in addition to that, they get a base increase. And it was done so that the average increase, including both base increases and step increases, would be roughly equivalent to the increases given to the non-represented employees for 2012, which included a base increase and an additional increase if they were below the midpoint of their job category. So the base increases here, 1%, would leave the union average increase being roughly equivalent to the non-represented employees' increases for 2012. We are building into our budget for next year, not contracts, but wage agreements for the non-represented employees that were significantly better than the numbers we used in 2012. And the reason for that is in 2012 we had rate limits hanging over our head, which would have forced us to make significant decreases in our total expenditures. Those rate limits have been repealed. I'll also call your attention on the, going back to the handbook, there is a financial note in Chuck's worksheet. Part of the handbook agreement freezes sick time payouts that those employees previously had, and that freeze would occur as of the end of this calendar year. That does result in a substantial saving to the taxpayers. That's the end of my report. And I'll move on to appointments. I have appointments for the Aging and Disability Resource Center Committee. The appointments are Claire Steiger, Deborah Hogue, and Donna Laurie, and it's for a 3-year term which will expire August 31st, 2016.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Supervisor Haig has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to the extension of the 5-year lease with Tri-County, did you note County Ordinance 3.13 as one of the reasons you vetoed the sale of Tri-County Ice Arena?
Yes.
So what is the difference in that ordinance then between a sale and the lease of that property or that facility?
Well, I think in either case we're charged with doing an appropriate job. But what you have to understand, and what was so skillfully pointed out by one of our board members, is that ice arenas are not traditionally a money-making venture. That they either have to have a philanthropist who's willing to put constant capital in, or some sort of government connection. There's very few that operate completely independent of governmental support. And so I don't think you're looking at a money-making venture. I think what we had hoped for in the past is that it could be operated without the county being exposed to operational expenses in excess of the revenues. And quite frankly, I think you can compare it to other public amenities and recreation that the county provides. For instance, County Park. You know, clearly we don't make money off of County Park. We put money in that exceeds any revenues we would collect. The same is true of the Expo Center, the boat launches, and most other recreational facilities that the county provides. But the public clearly enjoys having things like boat launches and soccer fields and baseball diamonds and view that as an appropriate government expenditure.
So the justification then is that we have assumed that it cannot make money, thus it should not go out for bid as outlined under County Ordinance 3.13.
The problem you would have with bid is how are you going to compare the bids when one organization already owns all the equipment and much of what's internal there? You could put it out to bid, but so far the only offers that we've received, the only people that have expressed an interest, and mind you, we haven't gone out and solicited them, but they were all fixed on the $1 discussion. And if you remember, what that goes back to was I was asked to look at what were the possibilities with regard to the ice arena that would ensure its continued operation for its current purpose. And the point I made there, and I think I explained it in that memo, was that if you were selling it to a friendly party and compelling them to operate it for its current purpose, that you wouldn't want to charge a large amount of money, because if you did that, you would be crippling them financially and making it less likely that the ice arena would survive and continue to provide its current service.
The last question is in regards to the most recent facilities and property management meeting, which I don't believe the minutes or draft minutes are available yet. But I know that you stated a figure that was going to be in our upcoming budget as to renovation of the parking lot at Tri-County. Would you care to share that figure with the board?
Sure. And if you'll recall, this board did vote in the past to repave that parking lot. But at the time, it was contingent on Outagamie County coming in with their share. And we went for years, and Outagamie County never even took it up for a vote of their whole board. I believe the figure would be $500,000, and once again, we would have the Highway Department perform that work so that a portion of that cost would come back to us as revenue in the Highway Department.
Thank you.
Supervisor Farley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to suspend the rules so we do not have to rise to speak.
Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay.
Chairman.
Well, I mean, it's...
I guess that was pointed out. It's
I
Robert's rule
understand.
or something. So
Somebody told me that presentation was going to come back to haunt me. I guess it is. Go ahead. Do you have any other questions?
No, other than in regard to your comment about the $500,000, I have read the lease agreement that we currently are under, and it states in there specifically that it's the responsibility of not the county to repair and repair that parking lot.
Yeah, this parking lot has exceeded the length of its normal life. And they would argue that,
regardless, sir,
they would
it's
argue,
right in the agreement.
And they would argue that that's neither a repair or a maintenance, but a rebuild. Just like the difference between putting a new roof on a structure versus repairing a roof. So I know that the Tri-County would argue that a parking lot replacement is not the same as repair and maintenance. But let me point this out as a practical matter. If the user groups are saying that the ice rental rates are too high, how would you generate an additional $500,000 of revenue to rebuild the parking lot without having even higher ice rates? Regardless of who manages that facility, they're not going to want the parking lot to remain in its current condition. And I suspect the condition of that parking lot is at least a factor in them losing some of the summer contracts that they would have for expositions there.
If we ever get a copy of the proposed 5-year lease, so the board and the supervisors can review that, will that language be in that lease also? Because, and if it's
I
going to
don't-
go 5 years, it's subject to amendment by the board?
No, that agreement is largely consistent with where it's been in the past, and there's been no change with regard to the duties of the lessee for capital items.
I'm referring to the new lease agreement that's on the agenda tonight. I haven't received a copy of that. And I'm wondering if that language will be in that, and other issues also.
Yeah, that resolution didn't come from me, but I would assume that it was based on the prior agreements.
Have you seen the new text of the proposed
Of the
agreement?
proposal.
Yes.
I have not read it and compared it to the last 5-year lease.
So there is a document?
I assume there was a resolution. Perhaps there wasn't a document. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
That resolution didn't come from me. It came from Parks.
Thank you.
Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The questions I'm going to ask the county executive are asked with great respect. And I just had it in front of me, the lease that we have on page 4, item 4, says that the corporation shall be responsible for, number 4, the parking lot on the leased premises. Now, you aren't a lawyer.
Yeah.
Mr. Bodner is a lawyer. I am not a lawyer. I have many constituents who are not lawyers, but they would understand English. This clearly indicates the parking lot on the leased premises will not be paid for by county taxpayers. I don't think any one of my constituents would have a problem with that. So that's my 2 cents.
Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Harris, once the parking lot is repaired, I understand that there are people that are interested in using that area for flea markets. Would that be available under the present agreement?
I think the way the current agreement is structured, the use of that property would be managed by whoever you enter a lease agreement with for management. But of course, their goal would be to cover their expenses with revenue. So I would presume that they would be favorably disposed, if the local ordinances allowed it, to any reasonable revenue generation. But certainly what they've looked at in the past are these major expositions, the llama show, the cat show, a business expo, things like that generate a significant amount of income over a relatively short period. And I don't know if you could duplicate that with a flea market.
Well, it could be used, the internal part of the building and part of the parking lot, having an area for flea markets. There was some discussion on it, and it would generate revenue. So, but I think it was contingent on that parking lot being repaired. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman's report. I have interviewed 2 individuals so far on college replacement for Marissa Reynolds, and I'll be interviewing a 3rd one on Thursday. It's an altogether different interview than when I interview some of us that send in a resume, because they all have such a long resume of all the things they serve on, all the things they do, all the education they have, so it's a little bit different. But we had a great turnout of people interested, so the 3rd one I'll be interviewing. There's a little story to this, why I had so many. First, I didn't get anybody, so we had a supervisor that just graduated from college. So I said to him, Supervisor Warnke, you must know somebody at the university. So I'm getting all these. Supervisor Warnke had asked that I come. I helped Supervisor Warnke get through college, and I was his they did all his studying for him, and they thought that they would do a good job. But, no, it wasn't quite that bad, but it was because he had asked most of these people to come forward, and he had emails sent out by different professors for people to apply for the job, so we have had a great turnout in it. But they did tell me that they were his, what were they, Bobby? They were his tutors, personal tutors. In District 6 in the city of Neenah, I have one individual that called me and said that he was interested. I told him he had to send me a resume. He said he'd be sending me a resume, so I'll be looking to interviewing him. And the college district will be making a decision by Friday, and the other Neenah one will be a decision will be made on Monday the 23rd. So that's where we're at with that. The presentation of the plaques. We had a number of supervisors that have retired, and the last couple of years we hadn't done anything about them. Travis Swanson, Al Jacobson, Donna Laurie, Jeanette Dykoff, Don Miller, Joanne Sievert, Jeff Hall, Marissa Reynolds. Travis Swanson, when we asked him to come here, he lives in Washington, D.C. He happened to be here for a wedding, so the executive came over, and we presented him his plaque in the clerk's office a couple weeks ago, so he has his plaque already. So at this time, I would like to ask Al Jacobson, Donna Laurie, and for Jeanette Dykoff, her daughter, Georgina Piepenberg will be coming up to accept it for her, and Bill Rowe will be accepting for Don Miller and Jeanette Sievert. So I would like Bill and the supervisors that I mentioned to come forward. So Supervisor Rowe, would you come forward with the other supervisors up here, and I will present you with your plaques. I will be accepting the plaque for Stan Klein. He was on his way home. He was sorry he couldn't be here. He was on vacation in Estes Park in Colorado, and he got washed out with the floods, so he couldn't be here. But and Jeff Hall and Marissa Reynolds will be mailing them their plaques to them. Maybe it's still on. It's on.
Is it on?
Okay. Anna, in recognition of your years of service on the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, Donna Laurie, Winnebago County Supervisor, District Number 14, served from April 4th, 2006 to April 1st, 2008. Congratulations. In recognition of years of service of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, Alfred Jacobson, Winnebago County Board of Supervisor, District Number 19, April 2nd, 2002 to April 3rd, 2012. Congratulations. And in recognition of years of service of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, Jeanette Dykoff, Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, District Number 31, April 3rd, 1984 through April 3rd, 2012. Her daughter will be accepting it. Thank you for being here for her. And Bill Rowe will be accepting it for Donald Miller. In recognition of your years of service of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, Donald Miller, Winnebago County Board, District Number 6, December 15th, 2009 to August 1st, 2013. Thank you. Thank you. And Joanne couldn't make it tonight either, but Bill lives right by her, so I said that we would be giving it to him on her behalf. In recognition of years of service on the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, Joanne Sievert, Winnebago County Board, District Number 29, April 7th, 1992 to February 25th, 2013. Thank you. accepting this for Stan Klein. It's in recognition of years of service of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisor. Stan Klein, District Number 25, April 4th, 2000 to January 31st, 2013. So I will see that he gets this. And we'll be mailing this to Jeff Hall. He couldn't be here. He's out in California, I believe. In recognition of years of service of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, Jeff Hall, District Supervisor number 17, April 4th, 2006 to April 3rd, 2012. We'll see that his mailed to him. And Marissa Reynolds couldn't be here either, and we'll see that she gets it. In recognition of years of service of the Winnebago County Supervisors, Marissa Reynolds, District Number 16, April 6th, 2010 to August 23rd, 2013. We'll see that shit's mailed to her. And we have a little something for the people that are here, so we're going to take a 5-minute break to talk with these people, for the people that served with them, so we'll be taking a few-minute break for a second. We have some cake for them in the back, and we'll be talking with you. So we'd like you to come. Oh, thank you.
The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. Please stay tuned for continued coverage. For broadcast times of local government meetings, check our website at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. You're watching City Cable 10, your source for government programming in the Oshkosh area. Simulcast on 101.9 FM WOCT and streamed on the World Wide Web at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. Please stay tuned for continued coverage. For broadcast times of local government meetings, check our website at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. You're watching City Cable 10, your source for government programming in the Oshkosh area. Simulcast on 101.9 FM WOCT and streamed on the World Wide Web at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. Please stay tuned for continued coverage. For broadcast times of local government meetings, check our website at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. You're watching City Cable 10, your source for government programming in the Oshkosh area. Simulcast on 101.9 FM WOCT and streamed on the World Wide Web at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. Please stay tuned for continued coverage. For broadcast times of local government meetings, check our website at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. You're watching City Cable 10, your source for government programming in the Oshkosh area. Simulcast on 101.9 FM WOCT and streamed on the World Wide Web at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. Please stay tuned for continued coverage. For broadcast times of local government meetings, check our website at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. You're watching City Cable 10, your source for government programming in the Oshkosh area. Simulcast on 101.9 FM WOCT and streamed on the World Wide Web at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. Please stay tuned for continued coverage. For broadcast times of local government meetings, check our website at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. You're watching City Cable 10, your source for government programming in the Oshkosh area. Simulcast on 101.9 FM WOCT and streamed on the World Wide Web at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. Please stay tuned for continued coverage. For broadcast times of local government meetings, check our website at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. You're watching City Cable 10, your source for government programming in the Oshkosh area. Simulcast on 101.9 FM WOCT and streamed on the World Wide Web at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. Please stay tuned for continued coverage. For broadcast times of local government meetings, check our website at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. You're watching City Cable 10, your source for government programming in the Oshkosh area. Simulcast on 101.9 FM WOCT and streamed on the World Wide Web at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. Please stay tuned for continued coverage. For broadcast times of local government meetings, check our website at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. You're watching City Cable 10, your source for government programming in the Oshkosh area. Simulcast on 101.9 FM WOCT and streamed on the World Wide Web at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org.
People are starting to tell me that if they're here past 9, they want overtime, but, okay, we'll go now. We'll ask for Linda Coleman, the Emergency Management Director, to come up, and she'll be giving us a presentation on the overview of severe weather of Winnebago County. It's all yours.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to introduce my Deputy Director, Bernie Sorensen, who is here with me today. He represents me when I'm not available in severe weather response as well. The purpose of the presentation today is to provide you, the County Board, with information on severe weather and our outdoor tornado warning sirens. What are our siren activation guidelines? When do they sound? Who can activate the sirens? And other notification tools. Siren activation in Winnebago County, this policy was reviewed in 2001 after a windstorm, June 11th, 2001, that struck our area. In emergencies, under the direction of the Emergency Management Director or his or her designee, Winnebago County will only activate the county outdoor warning sirens under the following conditions. The National Weather Service places Winnebago County under tornado warning. A Winnebago County trained weather spotter observes an actual funnel cloud and the sighting is confirmed. When there are straight line winds or downbursts in excess of 90 miles per hour. And then also the authority in charge shall have the ability to deviate from the above guidelines based upon unavoidable circumstances and situations. And what that means is very similar to the June 11th situation. We had saturated grounds here in Winnebago County, and we had sustained winds at about 50 miles per hour for about 15 minutes. And as some you might recall, we had a lot of large trees down and a lot of damages to homes. So the LEPC, our Local Emergency Planning Committee, reviewed the policies, and this is what they agreed to after the June 11th storm. Who does my office rely on for severe weather information? The first one we rely on is the Storm Prediction Center, and that is out of Norman, Oklahoma. Every day they put together a outlook for the whole United States where the potential is for severe weather. Bernie and myself, we are not meteorologists. We aren't required to be them. We rely on the professionals for this information. We next rely on the National Weather Service right out of Green Bay. If the Storm Prediction Center does give a forecast of potentially some severe weather, the National Weather Service in Green Bay works with emergency management directors in our area in the Green Bay region. If it looks likely for severe weather, they actually hold a statewide conference call with the National Weather Service, all the EM directors, and some of the state officials. They tell us how likely the storm is going to be affecting our area, what type of winds we can expect, possible tornadoes. We have about 3 or 4 of these phone calls per year in the summer season, and then also for winter events, winter storm warnings, and blizzards as well. What my office does then is it shares this information with all our local first responder groups and our hospitals so that they can be adequately staffed if a large storm moves through. We also rely on ham radio, Aries Skywarn members. These are volunteers in Winnebago County that have ham radios, go out in their vehicles, pay for their own gas, pay for their own equipment, risk damage to their own vehicles of hail, and they have had hail damage in the past. And we put them in pre-designated spots throughout the county where they get a good view of incoming weather. Sometimes we have 2 or 3 people out. Sometimes we have 12 or 13 people out. It all depends on what time of the day it is because they are volunteers and what time of night it is as well. We really rely on severe weather reports from adjacent counties. We don't always get the pleasure of getting that information. Waushara County only has 2 certified weather spotters with the National Weather Service that are ham radio operators. Sometimes they give us information, but if they're not in the right spot in Waushara County at the right time, we don't get that lead notice on what's heading our way. We do get information from Green Lake County and Wapaka County as well. We do have our own radar system in our office. Again, we aren't meteorologists or experts, and the professionals have much better equipment than we do. But what it does give us is the opportunity to see where the radar, where the storms are heading, and we make sure we don't put our storm spotters in harm's way if the storm is looking to head right to that area. We do rely on citizen reports. We do require verification. Almost every storm that we have, a severe storm, we do get false reports of funnel clouds. And we want to be really careful that we're not oversounding our sirens so that they lose credibility. So if we do get a lot of phone calls from citizens, we are lucky enough usually to have a law enforcement officer in the area, whether it's a city or county officer, and we ask for verification. We also train our law enforcement officers. Some of our volunteer fire departments and full-time departments help as well. When do we sound the sirens? When there's a tornado warning issued by the National Weather Service, it's an automatic. The 911 dispatchers know, sound the sirens. Where it gets a little tricky and controversial at times is if the National Weather Service does not issue a tornado warning during a severe thunderstorm warning. If conditions warrant the activation based on credible reports of significant damage to structure and or property being reported to the 911 center, our 911 dispatchers will activate tornado warning sirens only if directed by authorized people who can activate the sirens. Those people are the emergency management director, the deputy director, or his or her designee. If the EM director or deputy director or designee are not available, the Winnebago County Sheriff's Patrol Shift Supervisor can make the decision. If the Winnebago County Sheriff's Patrol Shift Supervisor is not available, the dispatchers should err on the side of caution and activate the sirens. There is a concern about siren complacency. We don't want to sound the sirens too often, and we don't want to be too conservative and not sound them enough. At times, we are in a no-win situation. Since 2002, we've had 97 severe thunderstorm warnings for Winnebago County. We've only had 16 tornado warnings. If we sounded the siren for every thunderstorm warning only, plus the tornado warnings, they would have activated 113 times. I think we would have a big concern that people would not take them as seriously if a funnel cloud or a tornado did not cause damage. So we want to be really careful when we sound the sirens. And the National Weather Service did a study of Joplin, Missouri tornado in 2011. They had 20-minute notice, the residents in Joplin, Missouri, that the tornado was heading their way. The majority of the residents did not immediately seek shelter when the tornado warning was issued. People needed between 2 and 9 risk signals to take action. So the tornado sirens went, they didn't necessarily believe them, they ran outside, looked for verification in the sky, they went in the house, looked at their computer, looked on the television, looked on the radio, which is all valuable time where you should be actually seeking shelter. And I thought an interesting part of the study said, most importantly, the perceived frequency of siren activation in Joplin led the majority of survey participants to become desensitized or complacent to this method of warning. This suggests that initial siren activations in Joplin and severe weather warnings in general have lost a degree of credibility. For most residents, one of the most valued characteristics for successful risk communication. And just as a little note, 158 people died in Joplin and 1,000 were injured. Siren reliability, all systems can fail. It's a mechanical system. We had, for example, a couple of years ago, we had a siren that was struck by lightning during a storm, and if we would have needed the siren to sound, it wouldn't have gone. We do everything we can to make sure that the sirens will activate during a storm. We test them every Saturday at noon from April and through September, sometimes a little in October, depending on what the weather forecast is. And we need to sound them for about 3 minutes to test the batteries to make sure that they're all in working order. And then on Monday mornings, my deputy or I will run a report, and it'll tell us, did the siren sound on Saturday, if they failed, what the issues are. And then the facilities department, under Mike Elder, has 2 electricians that are trained to fix our sirens. We do at times activate them when we are repairing sirens during the week as well. Sirens are to warn people at outdoor events. Sirens are to warn people at outdoor events. I need your help with this. Almost every time we sound the sirens, we get phone calls that people cannot hear it in their homes. They are not meant to be heard in your homes. And I don't know how we can change that conception here in misconception here in Winnebago County. They are meant for people who are at outdoor events, athletic events, gardening, whatever. They are not meant to be heard in your homes, and I really would appreciate if you could help me relay that to your constituents. Saying that, some residents do hear them, and they are fortunate if they can hear them. I live a half a mile by crow's flies, from our siren. I cannot hear it on a Saturday morning with my windows closed and my air conditioning running and the television on. And I don't expect to. So I really need your help with that. Sound does not travel as far when winds are whipping around in severe storms, and our homes are being built more insulated than ever. Recently, there was a storm up in a neighboring county at 12:30 a.m., and the sirens did not sound. They did go under a severe thunderstorm warning, and in that warning, if you had a NOAA weather radio, it relayed a message that winds could be in excess of 70 miles per hour, which can cause damages to roofs, homes, sidings, and trees. And that warning was given through the severe thunderstorm warning. Many people did not take that precaution. They were waiting to hear a siren in the middle of the night in their home. And I really encourage you to promote NOAA weather radios to your constituents. Bernie has a NOAA weather radio right here. It not only will give you an alert, but it'll tell you what the conditions are heading your way. This is what you want to wake you up in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. This is a large room, and I'm pretty sure most of you could hear that. That is what you want in your bedroom next to your bed. Don't rely on a tornado warning siren to wake you up. Other alert methods: know the weather forecast for the day. NOAA weather radio, we sell them at cost at the Sheriff's Office. You guys approved for us to do that. $24.90 plus tax. We sell them. We don't make a dime. We'll help you program them. I think our office has sold over 600 already to residents in Winnebago County. If you have a smartphone, there's applications you can download to get information on severe weather. Recently, our social media websites, Facebook and Twitter, we have a program now that will automatically post any watches or warnings for Winnebago County. My State USA is a reverse 911 system that the county purchased. If you sign your cell phone up, you will get an alert for a tornado warning on your cell phone. You'll get a text message. And then FEMA recently started a new program where you will automatically, whether you signed up for it or not, if you have a cell phone that's 2012 or newer, you will get an automatic text message with a strange tone compared to your normal text messages telling you there is a tornado warning in your area. A lot of different methods here. Bottom line, the public must not rely on any single warning tool, such as sirens for safety. There are so many other tools. It is just one of many methods, and sirens are just such a small part of it. Our office is just a very small part of it. The rest really needs to rely on, you need to rely on yourself and be aware of conditions. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got just a couple of quick ones. Back in the old days, you could hear the sirens. Now, being new, modern, modified stuff, have they been tapered down? Because, you know, I could hear them any given time or day when they would go off back 20, 30 years ago.
A lot of it has to do with buildings in the area, structures that were built that weren't there before. Cloud cover, the height of trees have changed. There's a lot of different reasons that could be. We have not turned the volume down at all. They're a different siren from 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. We use American signal. Those were federal signal sirens in the past, but they still emit a tone that is approved by the government to not be too loud, and they should be working.
And how long of a distance do they project?
It depends which siren. We have some older ones that are about a half a mile. We have some that are a mile. We have some that are a mile and a half.
Well, you know your business much more than I'll ever know, but I would think a mile and a half siren, you'd be able to hear it 3/4 of a mile to a mile away better than you would the half-mile siren. Is there some reason why we have 3 different kinds?
The age of the sirens. We're in the process. Some of those, the smaller ones, are 20 years old. Mm-hmm. We've been switching them out as they start to fall apart and going to the mile and a half zone.
No, I appreciate what you're doing because this is Winnebago County. This is not Outagamie County.
Right.
And that's a plus for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director Coleman, for coming this evening. I just wanted to make a statement that I have a NOAA weather radio in my home. I sleep on the second floor of a structure, so I want to make sure that if something happens, I get down to the bottom, of the basement. I've never had a false alarm. It gives you, tells you about thunderstorms, tells you about, obviously tornadoes. It also has a button on there too that if you want to hear the weather at any time, you push the button and there's the weather. So it is a good device to have in your home. In fact, I'm going to step up to the plate tonight and I'm going to tell Director Coleman that if there's anyone who calls your office who wants to know a weather radio and for some reason they can't come to your office and get it, you give me a call, I'll take it to them. And I'm hoping that some other supervisors will do that this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It was very informative. Now the Facilities and Property Management Director, Mike Elder, will be giving us a presentation on stormwater mitigation project for Winnebago Community Park and Parkview Health Center.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Mike Elder. I see a lot of new faces out there. I haven't spoken before you for quite a while. I'm the Director of Facilities and Property Management. We're responsible for a lot of the buildings and grounds that you see around here for the county or in our county operations. And one of the things that we picked up was helping Linda with her sirens a couple years ago. What I want to talk to you about tonight is the beginning of another capital project that we have, which is a stormwater mitigation problem that we have out at the Parkview Fairgrounds County Park area, where sometime over the last number of years, something has changed in the way the stormwater is flowing out of that area, and it's starting to cause us problems backing up in the system so that we're having potential for water getting close to some of our operating facilities. And tonight, this is part one of the project. What we're looking at trying to do is get some funding for a study of that area of the county to see where the stormwater is coming from, what we've done that's been changed since we last had a look at it. And we want to come up with some ideas, hopefully that are inexpensive, easy to take care of, that we can expedite the stormwater away from our operating facilities. This is also somewhat connected to another project that we have in the capital plan, which would be a parking lot extension for the Parkview facility. And that, we already know that we have enough hard surface in the area that if we add on to the parking lot, because of the stormwater utility for the city of Oshkosh, we're going to have to do something to mitigate the stormwater that the additional parking spots will cause. So this study will be taking a look at what we've got right now, taking a look off into the future on some of the things that we know that we're going to have to be doing, and hopefully coming up for a long-term solution that we won't have to worry about stormwater backing up for us. Originally, Parkview was two older buildings. It was the Pavilion, it was Pleasant Acres. Those buildings were built back in the 50s, early 60s, and the drainage for those buildings went through a drain pipe out into a culvert into the county park area in the southwest corner of the county parks, and it left the county park through a ditch, through a culvert, underneath Snell Road, and then out to Lake Winnebago. We built a new Parkview, and we actually got rid of some of the hard surface. It's actually a smaller building than the old Parkview. The parking, we took away a lot of the hard surface, and we actually had more green space to absorb the water. What we noticed was in 2008, we had a storm here that dumped about 12 to 14 inches of rain in about a 1-week period. I think you remember that, early July. We had the water get close towards the new Parkview. And we took actions to make sure that we didn't have any water get into Parkview. And basically what we did was we pumped water away from Parkview further into the parks and basically made it take a real long trip out of the parks. Since then, we've had a couple rainstorms that have had significantly less rain, about the 4 to 5 inch rainfall levels. And we've gotten water levels backing up into the stormwater system just about as bad as they were with the 14 inches of rain. So we know something has changed in the way we're collecting the stormwater. We've had Highway 41 get finished. We've had Highway Y get finished. There's a neighborhood on the west side of the county parks that drains through the county park area. There's just a whole lot of things that seem to have maybe been individually looked at and said, oh, well, this won't have any problems downstream. But now that it's being all merged together and collectively, now we may have a problem. I'm not a hydrologist. I don't know exactly how the water flows. I don't know exactly what the design requirements are for the drainage ditches and the retention ponds to maximize their efficiency. And that's what we're looking at trying to do. Sue, could you pop me up now? Okay. This is an aerial picture of the Parkview area, and it's kind of hard for me to show it to you. I can't really zoom it up too much more without losing everything, but I'll try. If you take a look at this area here, there's a red line that goes around. This is the area that we'd be looking at, taking a look at. This area up here is the county fairgrounds. This is the county park. This is a subdivision that's just east of Jackson. This is Snell Road, and this is Highway A. This is the Parkview complex here. And if you take a look at what we've got, all the water from the area here in red collects through the parks. We've got a retention pond here, a retention pond here, another pond here, another pond system over here. It all collects in those ponds and eventually just drains out through this culvert out to Lake Winnebago. And what we're finding out is when we're having the rainstorms now of about 4 to 5 inches, the water's backing up and it's coming up, and we have a drain pipe here that is towards Parkview, and it's starting to come up and getting close to Parkview, to the point where I'm afraid now that if we have another 14-inch rainfall in a relatively short period of time frame, that we will have the water dangerously close to getting into the loading dock area of Parkview. What this study would do is take a look at the stormwater system. It would take a look at, we've got Butler Avenue, that is, if you've gone out to Parkview or Coughlin, you've seen the condition of that road. That road's going to need to be rebuilt very soon. We've also got the parking lot that we want to put out at Parkview. All of these things are all going to kind of work together with the conditions that we've got right now, that we need to take a look at it and see what this stormwater, where the source of the stormwater is, where it should be going, and why it's not going away as fast as it can. The result of this study would be hopefully a list of recommendations and some cost estimates with it, so that we can take a look and see what we can do to remove or eliminate, minimize the probability of the water backing up in the system, and to do it the most effective and most cost-efficient way possible. So right now, what we're asking for, what I'm asking for, is a $25,000 advance on the capital project so that we can have a hydrologist, civil engineer come in, take a look at all these different properties, analyze where the water's coming from, take a look at previous studies that we've had and what their effects would be to the downstream flow of the water, and come back and say whether we've got a problem, whether we have to clean out culverts, whether we have to expand culverts, redirect drainage someplace else, and basically help us with containing the stormwater. And that's the whole thing right tonight.
Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, I just mentioned to Chuck, too. Could we or could we not, what size pipe are we using right now? Could we or could we not use a larger type pipe and just run her through? Where instead of having so much water coming through a smaller pipe, go into a bigger size pipe with the drainage going out the way.
That's what I need somebody. I'm not skilled enough to give you that answer. My honest opinion right now, that sounds like a good idea.
Well, I'm just going by common sense, that's all.
Yeah, but common sense doesn't always work well with
true.
government regulations and everything else. So,
well, how old is that pipe?
From the 50s.
Okay.
From the 50s. And since the 50s, like I've said, Jackson's been expanded, Highway Y's been expanded, Highway 41's been expanded, the subdivision's been put in there. It's all these things are all tying together, and I think we need to take a look at a big picture.
All right.
The water also backs up underneath where it goes underneath the
right
underneath tracks also. So
right, and that's right down
more
here.
Than just Winnebago County.
Right.
Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Elder, are you familiar with a study that the East Central Wisconsin Planning Commission had done on water and its flowing? I seem to recall that there was a study that was done that addressed these kinds of issues within the county, and I suspect that it might prove a good piece of input to either explain the situation that you've described, or else, of course, it would serve as input to a larger study. But I just might, offer that.
I don't have personal knowledge of that study. I'll look for it and see what it says.
I'll also look for try and fine tune the details of it so it'll be easy for you. Thanks.
Supervisor Robel.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you're on the right track, Mike. That's absolutely the first thing that we should do. If we're having all that problems with that water, we got to find out what the cause is, and we should go ahead and approve what you're recommending.
Supervisor Furry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I appreciate putting the map up there. I and the chairman from the town of Oshkosh reviewed those culverts this spring. I was out there with him, and there were some water issues. The first one you're referring to up there, I don't know if you'll put your cursor on it, that goes under the railroad tracks.
Right here?
Yeah, that's a major concern. I believe it was built in 1934, from my recollection. It's a kind of a concrete type structure. However, that's under the jurisdiction of the railroad, obviously, so
right.
That might create some logistical problems with that. But I somewhat agree that culvert system from there southeast needs to be even under is it Snell Road, I believe.
Right. This is Snell Road right here.
Yeah. There's another culvert back in there too that's
right.
Grossly inadequate. I believe the county did replace the culverts on A. Was that our jurisdiction or was that the city there? County, because they put new culverts in there, so they should be adequate. So it seems to be, if there's kind of like a hole in the funnel, so to speak, it would be under those railroad tracks and it's snow.
You know, and what I'm going to be asking too is having them take a look at this over here. This goes through state land. I believe this is Winnebago Mental Health or Resource Center.
Goes into a wetland, yes.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't know what's been done over there either that can be causing problems. The last big rainstorm that we had was only about 5 inches of rain, and Highway A was flooded over. So, yeah, it could be, you know, what we're looking for is it a blockage, and what I have for my authority as your director of facilities is I can't go traipsing around on private property all the time to see where we're having blockages or what's going on. So I'm looking for somebody to do some of the legwork, looking at some of the studies that we've got to see what we can glean from it and see if we can find hopefully a simple solution for it.
Thank you.
Supervisor Barker.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going back to when we did County Trump-wide, whoever was responsible for that. And this is going to sound very silly, but they even had a piece in the Northwestern when I spoke on this at the time. I was always particularly fond of the frogs in the spring. Maybe if any of you are here as long as I am will remember me talking about this. And right across from the driveway going into the fairgrounds was a huge ditch that was full of water and full of frogs every year. And they sounded just great. And I remember speaking to somebody with the DNR, and I know he's still with the DNR. He was with the, hooked up with the Conference Center over there. It was a DNR part. And he said, you know, it's a shame that we can't figure out something here. And he said, and we're going to be working on this so we do keep the frogs and the noise and the cattails, because they were beautiful big cattails in there. And he even took, he taped it for me so I knew what the frog sounded like, which I know it sounds completely crazy. But I can't think what his name is now. Maybe somebody in the you even remember who he is. He's still with the DNR. And we didn't seem to have any problems in the beginning when they widened Y, and they did get rid of all the water. They got rid of the cattails. They got rid of the frogs. They never seemed to come back. So maybe there are something in there that happened, but the water used to go through just fine through there. I've been here now on county board for almost 22 years, so I remember a lot of the things that happened around here, but we never did seem to get everything right again. So I don't know if that has anything to do with where you're having your problems, but it just seemed to, after they got rid of the ditch or whatever they had, the ditch and the frogs and the cattails, and I know there's been trouble since then. And in spring you see water on the road, that it isn't going wherever it's supposed to be going. Right across from the driveway of where you go into the fairground.
Right. I guess what I'm trying to stress is that over the last 15 years that I've been here with the county, we've had a lot of changes, and that I don't think we can point our fingers to any one thing that we've done. It could just be, you know, maybe the ditch leading out of the parks needs to be a little bit wider, or it needs to be cleaned up, or the ditch across Y or across A going into the wetlands needs to be cleaned out. But something has changed, and I don't have an answer for you.
Supervisor Hamlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, do you have an estimate on the consulting fees?
We've gotten one proposal. It's about $25,000.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. There are no other questions. Zoning reports, zoning reports and ordinances. Report number 1, Tammy Prather, Town of Nakaimai. Supervisor Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move for the acceptance of report number 1.
It's been moved and seconded to accept report number 1. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I would move for the adoption of mandatory ordinance number 1.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the mandatory ordinance number 1. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Report number 2, Jerome and Mary Brosh, Town of Nakaimai. Supervisor Brennan.
I would move for the acceptance of report number 2.
It's Been moved and seconded to accept report number 2. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I would move for the acceptance of a mandatory ordinance number 2.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the mandatory ordinance number 2. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I would move for the acceptance of report number 3.
It's been moved and seconded to accept report number 3. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I would move for the acceptance of a mandatory ordinance number 3.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the mandatory ordinance number 3. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution and ordinances. Resolution number 193-42013. Authorize execution of a 5-year rental agreement between Winnebago County and Tri-County Recreational Association. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for 193-42013.
Been moved and seconded. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A number of supervisors I've spoken to are concerned about the amount of misinformation that this board has received over the last 2 years. Specifically talking about this particular resolution, I will comment that during the August meeting, as you recall, even though it wasn't on the agenda, there was a brief discussion about this resolution. During a break, I was pulled aside by Corp Counsel and basically asked, I hate that word basically, I retract that. I was asked what my opinion was of not meeting the August date that it had been deferred to. Took me rather off guard, and I honestly said, I don't know. The next question was, what do you mean you don't know? And I said, I don't know. And Corp Counsel says, well, I would think that you should know that. And I said, I'm sorry, but no, I don't. And he said, well, I would expect that you would not want this to come back to the board floor. To which my comment was, I don't really care. I don't have a dog in that fight whether it comes back or not. It doesn't make me any difference. I was told at that time that he was of the opinion that because the date was missed, it could not be brought back. And again, he asked me, why wouldn't you know that? I couldn't answer him. I don't know why I didn't know that. I guess I'm not a student of Robert Rules of Order. But that evening I did leave, and I did some research. And quite frankly, I don't need a 3-page letter to explain to you what I found out. I have 2 sentences. And it says, and I quote, this is from Robert's Rules, a postponed question becomes an order of the day for the time to which it was postponed. If a motion to postpone definitely specifies a time that falls after the next regular meeting, then it is treated as a motion to postpone indefinitely, unquote. Having said that, the resolution is before us, so I will specifically address the resolution. I went back to our April meeting a few days ago, sat and watched the video, and at the 2-hour and 57-minute mark, I asked, if this is postponed until August, which I didn't disagree with, can we please be assured that we will each get a copy of the 5-year lease agreement? We didn't get it. About 2 weeks before the August meeting, I called the chairman of Parks and said, if you're going to bring this back in August, could you get us a copy of the proposed 5-year lease? As you know, it wasn't on the agenda, nor did we get a copy of the 5-year lease. At the August meeting, when we talked about it, as I previously mentioned, it was talked about briefly, I reviewed that, and I did once again, for the third time, request that if we were going to vote on this and bring it before the entire board, we should all get a copy. Didn't get a copy. Last week when I saw the agenda, and I see, 93 I guess it is, was on the agenda, I sent emails to the chairman of the board and to the chairman of Parks, once again requesting a copy of the 5-year lease. Not requesting, I asked the question, I'm sorry, I have it in front of me. It says, I see on the county website the 5-year lease is on the agenda. I said it in April, I said it in August, and I'm asking again, how can we vote on a document we have not read? I have not received my packet. Perhaps it will be in there. I didn't get a copy. I don't know if anybody else did. But for the life of me, I don't know how you, Mr. Chairman, or anybody here can expect us to vote on something and we haven't even read it. Therefore, I would move to postpone this to October 15th.
And moved and seconded to postpone it till October 15th. Supervisor Haig on the motion to postpone.
No, sir.
You had your light on. Supervisor Finch.
I'll talk about the postpone because Supervisor Rowe, you even told me yourself that the email that you sent me, which I did not receive, you got it back. So therefore, if you can tell the story, tell the whole story. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't mean this to be a tit for tat, but I did tell that to Mr. Finch before the meeting tonight. I also told him when I received it back via email, I called him no less than 8 times. I didn't want to bog down his voicemail at home, so I didn't leave 8 voicemails. I left 2. I left one day and one another day, asking him to be sure to call me, and I never received a call.
Can I respond to that one too?
We don't want to go in.
Well, I mean, let's say it like it is. He brought that to my attention also. I was in Vegas last week. I never received a call. Now, if my grandkids took it and erased it, that may be. I do not know. But, Bill, and you know for a fact, I've always returned your calls. So therefore, could be communications gap. That's as far as it goes.
Supervisor Thompson on referring it back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I should like to urge the county board to not only postpone this, but accept a substitute motion to refer it back to the committee, and I'd like to give my reasons if I may. I have no intention of talking about the merits of rather who should run the place, or whether we should have another group, or whether we should sell it or not. But I should like to call your attention to paragraph 16 in the agreement that was distributed to us. If you will examine paragraph 16, you will discover that it says that if a bona fide offer to purchase that property is received, now that could be a bona fide offer from anyone. If it is received, then the Tri-County Arena Group would have the opportunity to respond with their offer. They'd have the right of first refusal, in which case the place is automatically sold. Now, I don't think it is the intent of this board tonight automatically to sell it to whoever submits an offer. But that is exactly what the resolution or what the document says. Now, I'm not an attorney, but I can read, and I believe that is precisely what it says. Now, this means that any time any person offers to buy the place, the Ice Hockey Association can have right of first refusal, but in any case, it is sold. So I should like to offer a substitute motion to refer this back to the committee, because this kind of arrangement is absolutely unacceptable. It could be sold next week if this passes. It could be sold to anyone if this passes. Now, that is really not the way the county board ought to operate.
Right. We're Supervisor Eisen on the motion to postpone.
Are we to assume that this amended lease agreement is in fact the renewal lease agreement, except for the change of the terms? No. Well, and it's very clear that the requests of supervisor from Nina was not adhered to, and so I would support referring it back.
The Corporation Council said no. Supervisor.
That's the current one-year lease that's attached to the resolution. I don't have a copy of the 5 years.
You have to talk into the mic, the rest.
I do not have a copy in my office of the proposed 5-year lease. I just have the one-year lease. Basically, the committee wanted this on back in April, and we put it on the agenda. But the one-year lease, Mr. Eisen, the lease that's attached to the resolution is the current one-year lease with the Fox Valley Ice Arena people.
Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to referring or postponing this, I hope that everybody would vote in favor of that amendment. I truly believe that Mr. Rowe has done his homework, as he usually does in this respect. His facts are entirely adequate for a vote in favor of that amendment. And it wasn't that long ago a famous line was heard from coast to coast, something to the effect of, "We won't know what's in it until we vote for it." And that would seem to be the case in this situation. And I think that is the worst possible type of public policy. So unless Mr. Finch would respectfully pull this before the vote, I would ask for a vote in favor of the amendment.
Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hesitate to say this, and I do say it with utmost respect for two people, Corp Counsel and a county exec. Does it scare the 33 of you as much as it does me that we're sitting here tonight expected to vote on a 5-year lease and neither of these two gentlemen have seen it? I felt bad that I hadn't seen it, that you hadn't seen it. But they have both said that they haven't seen it. We can't deal with it tonight.
Supervisor Finch on
Yes. First I want to explain that 5-year lease. We wanted the same as what we have for the racetrack. Nothing fancy, nothing great. They have a 5-year lease. That's what we want to try to make it the same as the racetrack. However, now, through all this discussion, and Supervisor Thompson, I'd like to see that resolution you got. You'd like to have some changes. Give it to Corp Counsel, and when we have the meeting, we'll discuss this. And if you got some good ideas, we'll throw it in there also. At the present time, I'm pulling this resolution.
So does that take precedent? Okay, that is withdrawn. That resolution 193-4213 has been withdrawn. Resolution number 253-92-013, authorized execution of temporary limited construction easement to the town of Menasha Shady Lane. Supervisor Hamlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd move for Resolution 253-92013.
It's been moved and seconded. Supervisor Singstock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I was going to speak on the other resolution, but I guess I didn't get my chance.
All in favor of the resolution 253-92013, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution 254-92013, authorize an emerald ash borer EAB pest control services licensing agreement between Winnebago County and ArborJet. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for 254-92013. Any questions? I got Rob right behind here, and I'm quite sure this won't take as long as the last resolution.
It's been moved and seconded. Supervisor Farley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had the opportunity to attend a meeting on this very subject, the emerald ash borer invasion into Winnebago County, which was put on by the DNR and UW Extension, held on the 12th day of September. At that meeting, the experts were there from DNR and other experts that spoke to the issue, and basically my understanding of what they're saying is that once the trees are infected, it's pretty much a lost cause. I think this resolution addresses treatment for the trees. However, their suggestion was that only should be done primarily to private landowners if you have one or two trees, that kind of thing, you might want to treat them. But on a larger scale, and I believe this suggests multiple trees, I believe it was 10 or more, it's the better avenue might be to just, there's a grant in our packet also to pursue the purchase of new trees, and that's what their suggestion was. It's probably a better idea just to get some money together and start planting new trees to replace the obvious demise of the ash trees as we go forward. Now, we don't know. It might take 3 years, 4 years before the trees die. I mean, these are things we don't know, but they made it quite clear that it's the chance of saving these trees is somewhat remote. I just thought I'd share that. At least that was my understanding of the presentation that day.
Okay. Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you. On the way to this meeting this evening, I was listening to the radio, and they were interviewing Oshkosh City Manager Mark Roloff, and he basically said the same thing that Mr. Fari did now, whereas once the infestation starts, the life of the trees is no longer than 5 years. And I believe he said it would be a waste of money to start treating, but actually to move forward with planting a variety of trees rather than putting all your eggs in one basket like was done way back with Dutch elm and now. So unless Rob wants to clarify that, I think it would be, I agree it would be a waste of money.
Okay. We'll vote by machine. We'll vote aye. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, there is no money that the county is putting out for this. It amounts to a swap where they're treating the trees, which, again, we're only buying time. It doesn't mean that we're going to continue the treatment well into the future, but if you're familiar with County Road Y, it's basically it's Ash Boulevard. What we're attempting to do is just treat the trees long enough to sustain something there, some foliage, and then eventually through a program such as what we're doing with our grant here, start introducing some diverse species. So to wipe out the entire ash, well, the 90 ashes that are along that road is going to be pretty stark, so we're looking to buy some time with it. And there has been some success with it. Again, it's still being researched, but seeing as this doesn't cost the county any money, it amounts to an even swap. I didn't see any harm in going ahead with it. Actually, we're getting some value out of this.
Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My concern with this project is based on another supervisor convincing me that there are too many signs and banners being put up on county property, and while we may not be paying any money, you can read in there that there are signs and banners that are going to be put up, and therefore I can't support it.
Okay, we'll vote by our little pad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. That is passed. Pardon? Oh, it was, I didn't, I looked at it crooked through here. That has failed. Resolution number 255-92013. On line 11, before I bring it forward, Supervisor Schneider pointed out that it said 200, and looking into it, it should be 2001. So if you'd add a 1 after all those zeros on line 11 of this resolution number 255, and it's authorized execution of a donation and release agreement with the Oshkosh Youth Super Club. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 255-92013.
It's been moved and seconded. Supervisor Rowe, did you have a question on it? Or didn't I miss you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a question on the previous one. Why did that require a two-thirds vote? I mean, it doesn't make any difference, but I was just curious why it required a two-thirds vote. You can get back to me. It wouldn't have passed anyway, but let me know sometime.
Okay, we will check into it for you. Okay, we're on resolution 255-92013. Supervisor Gabbard.
I have a question for Rob, and it's just clarification. I can read also, but I need clarification. Once this is built and they're turning it over to Winnebago County, the soccer association is still going to maintain the building?
Yes.
Portions of it.
What portions? I don't
The county parks department will be responsible for the restrooms and the interior portion, which would include the concession area, the administrative area, the overhang area as well. They would be taking care of that with their own means. We would be responsible for the restrooms and some of the exterior areas as well.
Thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose?
Nay.
1 nay. Did you get who it was, or do you need to know? Okay. Resolution 256-92013. Authorize adoption of Winnebago County Outdoor Recreational Plan 2013 to 2017. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for 256-92013.
It's been moved and seconded. Supervisor Farley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe in reading the document, and this is the one we received, as if I'm referring to the right document. On page 65, it referred to a Lakes Commission. Could somebody from the Parks Department or the director give me a little more information about the, quote, Lakes Commission?
Hey, Mr. Fari. Trish Nall from East Central Planning Commission. Just wanted to clarify that for you. It's basically kind of it's a general statement. It's not saying that, there is a Lakes Commission out there necessarily. It was that study that we had actually been doing for that exotic invasive species. And mostly that park management, it's more of looking at the lakes and actually, looking at that weed control and everything else that was in there. It's just a general statement coming in.
So in other words, the Lakes Commission should come off of it, and then just weeds control or something should be put in there, or what?
Right, and we can
the
strike
land
that.
water was against the. I guess you could explain it better than me, but I know that.
I think I'm not aware of a study, and of course, our Committee on Land and Water Conservation has been quite involved with the grant proposals and the different groups that have done these studies. I'm aware of terms like Lakes District. Lakes Commission implies a Chapter 33 statutory thing, and really that's a very controversial issue. I would suggest you might not want to refer to that and just refer to the. Are you referring to the East Central Regional Planning Study for the aquatic?
And that really wasn't my intention, I believe, Mr. Fari, when I had put that in there. It was more of a general statement, but, we can actually strike that. I know that is.
I would appreciate that.
Sure.
I think it kind of gives a bad impression and direction.
Sure. Understood.
So before I vote also, that will be stricken from that. Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to page 70, which falls under the heading on the previous page 69 as action plan, I saw this document during the last Park and Rec committee meeting when they approved it, and I'm not sure if this is the same one that I saw or not, and perhaps Supervisor Singstock can help me out because I was looking at his document. Did those boxes have dollar figures in them in the document that was approved?
Supervisor Haig, I don't understand the question really, what you're referring to. I have nothing in front of me.
I'm referring directly to the Comprehensive Outdoor Park and Recreation Plan. And when I was at the meeting, I was looking at your copy of the Comprehensive Outdoor Park and Recreation Plan. And if memory serves, on page 70 of your document, where we are seeing white and gray boxes for, say, for instance, Sunnyview Expo Center, additional storage units, were there dollar figures in those boxes?
Well, I cannot answer that, so you have to refer to Rob, I guess.
Okay, either Mr. Way or Chairman Finch, if there was a different comprehensive outdoor park and recreation plan that was approved during that committee meeting, other than what we have here, did they have dollar figures there or no?
I think I can clear that up for you, Mr. Haig. No, we had intentionally left off some of the dollar figures in there. This action plan was a priority list. We took a study through the committee members and the public participation through the survey, and we went through the table to look at the years 2013 through 2017 with a guideline. And that's exactly what this plan is. It's a guideline for the county to follow. Now, Mr. Way does have the capital improvement and the budget and everything coming up that will correlate with this plan. If there's something that we would like to actually have numbers in there, then it would probably be an amendment to the actual corp or the comprehensive park and rec plan.
So I guess the question still stands. Did the document that I saw at the Park and Rec Committee meeting, did it have dollar figures in those boxes or not?
No, it did not.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Eisen. Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to refer to page 3, the third paragraph, describing the geography and demographics of Winnebago County. And I note the absence of Highway 10, which is a 4-lane highway that extends from the east boundary of the county to the west boundary of the county, is vividly absent. Is that just, there's no northern outdoor activity in the county? Is that what that implies?
That really wasn't inadvertently not put in there. But yes, there definitely is Highway 10 that for some reason just didn't get put in there. But that was what the 4-lane divided freeway was referring to.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gabbard.
2 quick points. I picked up on an error and it affects our township, so I'm going to bring it up, and it's trivial, but so be it. On page 12, when you list the boat launches in Winnebago County, I believe you have number 11, Edgewood Lane. If it's the Edgewood Lane that's in the town of Oshkosh, that's a town of Oshkosh boat landing, not a city of Oshkosh boat landing. And we do maintain that. That's just a point of correction for you. On page 45, additional swimming opportunities are needed throughout the county. That may be a point, but I sat on the ad hoc committee a few years ago for reopening the swimming beach at the county park, and the dollars weren't there at that time, so I don't know where we're going to pick up the dollars to do more swimming opportunities. But kudos to East Central Planning, which I'm not an avid fan of. At least we didn't have to pay for a study. So when I read this for the 3rd time last night, I think this is a pretty good package, and I am going to vote for this, which I normally would not do this, but I think you guys did a great job. And I think we need to keep the park situation in our county up to date for the taxpayers to use, and especially Winnebago County Park needs some help out there. So I'm going to vote yes for this. Thank you.
Okay, we'll vote by our little pad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. That is passed. Finance Director Orenstein will answer Supervisor Rowe's question on why that was a 2/3 vote.
Okay, the reason for that is because there are accounting rules for what's called non-monetary transactions, where you kind of barter. You're trading something for something. So the accounting rules will require that we have to record a revenue on the Parks Department books for the allowing them to put signs up, and we have to record an expense for the value of them coming in and doing the ash borer treatments. So if you don't approve it by 2/3, you're going to have a revenue and expense without a budget that offsets it.
Resolution 257-92013, request authority to apply for American Transmission Company ATC tree planting grant. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for 257-92013.
It's been moved and seconded. Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the type of resolution that I would urge everybody to strongly support, and I actually hope that other departments, facilities, and others can start doing the same thing. Obviously, with the tree population in this county under duress, this is going to be very helpful to us, and hopefully there'll be other grants that we can apply for in the future. So, just my little comment. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution 258-92013, appropriate $2,094,630 to Capital Project Fund for the purpose of reconstructing the roadway through the community park and replacing lighting, culvert, signing, and striping, and landscape restoration to be funded with a subsequent bond issue. Supervisor Finch.
Mr. Chairman, I move for 258-92013. Anybody has some questions? Rob and Vicky are both here. It has a lot to do with what's going on with the parks and especially the AD and things of this nature. So therefore, any questions? We got the two back here to answer them for you. Thank you.
Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to the Personnel and Finance Committee vote, I see it's 3-1. If the one nay vote is present, I'd like to hear the reasoning behind that nay vote.
Supervisor Roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. While I realize that there are necessities with ADA, I think, and I agree that there are some upgrades necessary, I don't think that at this time we have to go to this extent. I think it should be scaled back dramatically. Thank you.
Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've driven through the community park, and I'm hard-pressed to understand why it cannot function as a two-way road system as it is. Perhaps it needs an extra foot on the shoulders of each side, but that road is in better shape than many of the county roads. And I can't see investing an extra $650,000 to $663,313 to put in a brand new road, reconstruct the road, when all that we would need is a expansion of the shoulders. I'm also would confirm what the supervisor from NENA said, and that if you read through the project, the Rettler study, you'll see that compliance with the ADA requirements has not been finalized by the central federal government. And as a consequence, it's not a violation. It may never get finalized. So that the imperative of expanding a $582,961 10-foot shared pathway, in fact, what it says in the study is not a final and enforceable standard. So I would oppose putting this extra $2 million into our parks when our human services and our public safety are crying for these dollars.
Supervisor Hamlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would hope that parks and facilities can pool their resources and examine stormwater issues as part of one of the two studies. They should definitely be coordinated. And if we find out a culvert is undersized or worn out, I think we should try to get some cooperation. And the second point, I may not be an expert in this area, but I think one of the reasons the park roads are in such good shape is because of the one-way system. traffic tends to stay in the middle and not drive on the edge and not wreck the shoulders. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having voted for it in the community, in the committee, and having had time to think about my vote later on, I have come to the conclusion that I will not be supporting this. One of the reasons is that it is a huge expenditure and we're spending money a little bit more rapidly than we're taking it in. The interest alone on this expenditure would be, if my figures are right, $275,000. I don't have the numbers before me that we were given before, but I also noticed that we're going well into 5 figures for each light pole in that park. There's a whole lot of new lighting and well into 5 figures for each post. I cannot justify that type of expenditure at this time.
Thank you. Supervisor Hardy.
Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and speak up in favor of this proposal. I think somebody should. We had a presentation on this, I believe it was last month. A few months prior, we had a presentation and approved improvements to the tennis courts there to do something, some kind of form of tennis. I can't remember what it was called. Yeah, that's what it was. The soccer field, we just approved for the soccer club to do a nice improvement there. And the soccer field, it's already been shown that this, we have these national soccer tournaments that come and use this place. The presentation I saw last month showed some really nice improvements to that park. The lighting is improved, and I can't quote figures. I don't have the plan in front of me, but the roadway, the whole design of the road structure is improved. It's not only ADA compliant, but it has better access for non-motorized vehicles throughout the park. We've seen they were talking about the numbers for the Frisbee golf course there, and it looked, that would be incorporated in this. I thought it looked like a great plan. And this park the county park is used quite a lot, and it's a very good recreational tool for the people in this county and people outside of this county that come in there to use this. I know that there's a number of cultural festivals that use that park. I think they would benefit from the improvements. I know I went to a Hmong festival there, and the parking situation was just insane because there were so many people there. And I think that the plan that was presented to us would really make events like that more efficient and more user-friendly, more handicap accessible. We've passed resolutions spending this much money on a mile stretch of county highway without a single discussion. And I think we've seen a lot of presentations on this plan. I think they look good. I think a lot of thought went into this. And I'm not on the Parks Committee or anything here, but I like it. I'm going to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, we just passed a 5-year comprehensive outdoor park and recreation plan with very little opposition. But note that these recommendations of the Rettler consultant are not even in the 5-year plan. I think we have to take another good look at that.
Supervisor Widener.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's pretty important that we maintain our infrastructure here. And what I'm hearing from the board here over the last 2-3 times, we've gotten to the point of let's don't spend this, let's don't spend that, and we're forgetting that we've got constituents or residents in Winnebago County out there that are counting on some of these. And I think Supervisor Hardy did an excellent job of pointing out what we're doing here and the number of people that use this park. I'd also like to address the ADA thing just for a minute, being one of these people that bring it up periodically, and I think that's something we need to be doing. So to sit back and say we're not going to spend money here, we're not going to spend money there, we got to quit doing that. We got to start thinking about what are we doing for the residents of Winnebago County, and that's why we're here. So I strongly propose that we pass this and that everyone here votes yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In my review of this resolution and the presentation, I came here tonight prepared to support this, and most of that was because of the ADA requirements, I believe. County Executive Harris addressed those requirements, and his statements were, I believe, it's mandated. During our presentation from Mr. Way, the director of the Parks Department, he indicated that, I don't know if he used the word mandated, but he inferred to this board that they're going to be required. However, Mr. Eisen's comments contradict what we've been told. So I certainly would request that the Parks Director or Mr. Harris explain the word and difference between the two opinions, especially the word mandated. I mean, if there is no federal rule that says we have to do this, that does impact certainly my vote. So would somebody please explain the differences of opinion here?
Rob jumped right up to the mic.
I'm going to refer you back to two acts that occurred with the ADA back in 93 and 2001. When the federal government put out guidelines and so forth from Washington, and at that time I think it was the Consumer Protection Agency, and now it's under the Department of Justice. Both instances, they put out guidelines, if you want to call them that, expecting basically feedback for about a 2-year period. Those guidelines stayed intact. They didn't change at all. They then started enforcing them, and when individuals had not met the deadline, which is March 15th of 2015, they started requiring them to do it. Did not give them a choice, started fining them as well. Those standards are in place. We should be following them anyways. They're implied at least in recent acts, but these now are directed towards the recreation component. That's this third revision of the ADA Act. So what we can go through is not do this, basically ignore it, and wait for a complaint to come in, which can either draw a lawsuit or they'll complain to the feds. They will come in and require us to do it like they have in De Pere. And at that time, there will not be a grace period. It will be do it now. They'll give probably a fine with it as well as they have up there. So it's your choice. You can either treat this as what amounts to a mandate or go at it casually and wait for a complaint to come in.
Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I appreciate the comments from Supervisor Thompson, and that definitely impacts my vote as well. One of the other portions of our meeting tonight was accepting or an agreement with the Oshkosh Soccer Club to build a recreational building there. And being from the far north end of the county, town of Menasha, that only further cements in my mind that although this is a county park, that this park is highly regarded as a city of Menasha, or a city of Oshkosh park. And I hear a lot of bickering among supervisors every now and then about where are we spending money in the county. I understand that there is at least one facility on the far north end of the county that we spend a substantial amount of money on. However, in regards to Supervisor Hardy's comments, I do agree that we should do something. However, this plan is not a Cadillac plan. This plan is a Bentley plan, and it's running through this board at the speed of a Maserati. So I would suspect that we all need to see at least one alternative to this specific $2 million plus plan, and hopefully work for the citizens of Winnebago County as a whole, and not just, as I see it, for the citizens of the city of Oshkosh. Thank you.
Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I agree also with, or I understand what Supervisor Thompson's comments are. This is a lot of money. The comment that was made earlier that this road in there is better than the county roads, it might be better than some of the roads in the county, but not on the county road system. That road is bad in there. In my years with the highway department, we were involved with estimates and things on that quite a few years ago. It is bad. And adding 1 foot, the process of adding 1 foot on the side of an old road like that just really isn't feasible for the cost that would be adding it onto an old road. As far as Supervisor Hamlin's comments about the drainage plan, I agree with that also. Back to the comments about that drainage plan, it's probably going to be more than just raising a couple culverts or making them bigger. There's retention things, there's probably things through that park that have to be looked at. I would hope that would get addressed also as part of between the drainage plan and this, if it passes. The other thing is, even though it's a lot of money, one of my pet peeves in government is when government entities build facilities, whether it's roads or buildings, things like that, parks, and then don't commit the money to maintain them properly and just let them go bad. It's a lot of money, but I really believe that we have an obligation to keep that park up, and with the different comments that are made, I believe it's needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where I'm going to go as far as what's all been going on in the park throughout the year, and for that matter, years, and for all 12 months. For example, we have many different soccer tournaments, whether it be Hmong, Asian, whatever. We have a lot of them. And the reason they come here is because we got some very good fields. We want to keep them up. We have the Frisbee tournaments. In fact, we just put on, I believe, 2 more Frisbee stands so we can get more into a different higher class, what word am I looking for? Contest where you got more people coming. We had a good presentation last month from Rob. And what I received from this board at that time, everybody was pretty happy with that presentation. Actually, I'm very surprised what I've been hearing tonight. Yeah. We have some phone calls and some people talking about they'd like to have a trail throughout the park, make it more user-friendly for people to walk through the park. That is something that we should do. And right now, it's just a single road. It's even worse for an individual to try to walk it, especially if they got some little kids taking the walk. And as far as ADA compliance goes, every time I turn around, we go into the meeting, Vicky's telling me this has been changed, that's been added, da-da-da-da-da-da. It's an ever-ending thing, you know. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I am hoping that this board will take care of our county parks. If we don't, we're just going to have a lot of people calling us up and giving us a lot of grief because we're not upkeeping what we have. A good example is look at our boy, my mind went blank again. I'll just make one more call in a minute.
Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that this is a quality of life issue. People move here, corporations move here because of things that we take for granted. Our lakes, our rivers, our parks, whether they're owned by the city, the county, or the state, that draws people here. That's why we have these large conventions and large groups. And I think sometimes we take it for granted. But I know that when I talk to people that come here on vacation, they speak of this. They don't have it where they came from. We do. The ADA requirement aside, how about just doing it because it's right? Not because a law requires us to do it. Let's do it because it's right. And in terms of cars and Bentleys, and I think, let's think of this park as a Ford. We can afford it. In fact, we can't afford not to take care of it. Let's vote yes.
Okay, take your little iPad and vote aye or nay, however you feel. What do we need, 24, 27?
Larry's not present. Yeah, it says absent. I don't think.
That just passed. Resolution 259-92013, approve land use agreement between State of Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and the University of Wisconsin Extension of Winnebago County. Supervisor Barker. Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Supervisor Hardy.
I just have one question about this. Is this sorry, I want to make sure I got this right. This is for the community garden, is that correct?
Yes.
Is
Community garden and extension works very hard to get land for this because it is getting harder and harder to get pieces of land where people can use them. But of course, not into the city, and so extension puts a lot of work into finding places for community garden.
Is it in the same location as the existing community garden, or is it a different location? Okay, great. Thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution 260-92013, authorize Winnebago County to formally co-apply for an economic development administration EDA section 11.300 public works grant in cooperation with the City of Oshkosh and to execute any necessary agreements in relationship thereto. Supervisor Warnke.
I move for your approval of 260-92013. Peter is in the back room if you have any questions. It's kind of a simple thing. What we're doing is redoing, we were asked to redo this resolution. There's really no changes, but if there's any questions, go ahead.
Okay, there are no questions. You'll take your little pad and vote aye or no. What is this scoreboard? That is passed. Resolution number 261-92013, approving Winnebago County Human Resource Policy Manual. Supervisor Roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to move forward resolution number 261-92013 and briefly speak to the same.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Go ahead.
You will note that I chose the words to move forward. I'm not moving to approve because we on PNF don't approve. You will see the vote was 4-0. But the 4-0 wasn't in favor of this resolution. The 4-0 was to move it forward without a recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Furry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have gone through the document, as I'm sure we all have, and I find some troubling issues within the document. And I'm not going to elaborate, but as an example, on page 77, disciplinary action, policy 24, number 4. We're all aware of the current state law in the state of Wisconsin. It was billed as a personal protection law. If you have permits, you are entitled under the law certain rights guaranteed by that law. Number 4 says you can't have that right if you're an employee of Winnebago County. You can't possess a weapon in your vehicle in a parking lot in Winnebago County. This is just one example of the inconsistencies in here. I also look at the grievance procedure here. I find that to be quite arbitrary. My first review of this draft is we could do a lot better than this, so I'm not going to support it. I think it was poorly done. It was done hastily. I assume Mr. Bogner would agree with my comments. We got things in here that aren't even statutory in some cases, so I'm not going to support this at all.
Supervisor Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a question for Supervisor Roll. Why are you forwarding it without comment?
Would you repeat that?
Why, Mr. Roll, why did the committee decide to just move it forward?
So that you all would be able to give your contributions similar to what Mr. Fari did.
Okay, just wanted to know. Thank you.
Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very disappointed to see the treatment of time off benefits. Under a employee handbook, we were given the opportunity to consolidate all of the departments under the county. This particular document confirms what had been, and it doesn't meet a standard of uniformity. Well, I would like to move that this be returned to the committee for examination and to treat the departments as a whole. I don't think it should be that difficult to do so. I had intended to offer an amendment, but hearing discussion and of the prior Personnel and Finance Committee treatment of this document, giving all of the supervisors an opportunity to extend their thoughts in respect to the issue, I think I'd be looking for a second to have a vote to have this sent back to the committee for decent treatment.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to refer it back to the committee. Supervisor Finch on referring it back? No. Okay, we'll vote. We're voting on...
Mr. Chairman, are they going to come back with a vote one way or the other instead of just vote just to bring it on? Exactly, but is the committee going to bring it back one way or the other instead of we're just going to bring it back just to put it on the floor?
No, it will be brought back.
All right.
I mean, we'll try. I mean, I was going to get up and say some things against it, but that has nothing. Somebody's referring it back now, but we will. I think he said he gave one little indication, maybe while we're discussing this, that there will be some other indications what they want to see in it.
That was a question I was going to ask, but since I can't because we had it taken back, but otherwise I was going to ask that question.
Supervisor Hardy, on referring it back?
Yes. Is the passage of this handbook, does this have any impact on the resolutions that follow, the labor contracts?
No. No.
Thank you.
Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I just say that any of you that have any concerns, such as those expressed already this evening, please contact one or more of the people on PNF so that we can discuss your concerns also. We have plenty of our own. Thank you.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, we'll vote aye to refer it back, no if you don't want to refer it back. That is referred back. Resolution 262-92013, authority to execute 2013 labor agreement with Winnebago County Highway Department Employees Union. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve resolution number 262-92013.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution I don't know, I missed something here. Resolution 262-92013. Oh, okay. I was thinking that it was Resolution 263-92013, authorized to execute 2013 labor agreement between Winnebago County Human Services employees. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve resolution 263-92013.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 264-92013, authority to execute 2013 labor agreement with the Bridge Tenders Union. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of resolution 264-92013.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution 265-92013, authority to execute 2013 labor agreement with Parkview Health Center. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve resolution 265-92013.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution 266-92013, authority to execute 2013 labor agreement with Winnebago County Courthouse. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of resolution 266-92013.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution 267-92013, disallow claim of Creeley Clamp Trucking Incorporated, incident date July 1st, 2013. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of resolution 267-92013.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution 268-92013, disallow claim of Creeley Camp Trucking, Incident date January 15, 2013. Supervisor Roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of Resolution 268-92013.
It's been moved and seconded. Before we go any further, I have a comment. Mr. Brennan will be discussing this at Solid Waste tomorrow, so there's always a lot of claims from this. So, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Supervisor Robel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move that we adjourn until October 15th on a Tuesday at 6 p.m. for our regular business meeting.
It's been moved and seconded. We are adjourned.